Welcome, entrepreneurs. Good evening. Happy Monday evening. My name is Joe DeChara, and I am here once again intruding on your Facebook space, giving you another tidbit of information on small business. Obviously, I have a beautiful guest tonight. Her name is Marisa Pasquini. Okay, I love that name. She is basically a new business owner. We're going to talk about her passion, what she does, and how she's going to change the world, and how you might be able to connect with her and help her do that. So Marisa came to me a couple of years ago as a referral. She was in the middle of writing an unbelievably fantastic book. And I set her up with a corporation, and she's been in business, Marisa, for a couple of years now?
Yep, a couple of years.
So let me let people see you. And so welcome, Marisa Pasquini, the owner of National Home Care Academy. And so tell us who you are and how you wound up on my show here.
So thanks for having me, first of all, Joe. And so I am a dementia care expert. And I met Joe when I was, like he said, setting up my corporation and getting started sort of formally in providing training and support for dementia caregivers. And it was right as my book was being published, which is called Surviving Dementia Without Losing Your Mind. And it's been well received, which has been really great. And so how did I come to be here? I just really appreciate what Joe has done for me and what Joe is doing for, this community in helping them discover and grow their businesses. So here I am.
All right. All right. Awesome. Welcome. And thank you for spending the time with us.
Yeah.
And this is a service. A couple of years ago when Mel sent you to me, I was in the process of changing my business around, and I had decided to focus on people that really had a passion for something. Maybe they were doing it as a hobby. Maybe they just had a calling and wanted to turn that into a business. And that was you. You were one of actually the first of my new avatars to come on board. Yeah, and it was all by design.
Right.
And so because, I had a passion, my business, I've been compelled to be where I am today. Okay, just like I believe you're being compelled. And I was just interviewed on somebody's podcast today, and that's what came out. They asked me, how did you wind up where you are, basically? And I said, I don't know. It was just a whole series of coincidences.
Right.
So you have your story, and I was on your website, National Home Care Academy. It's a great site. When I go to the about, you were talking about, I think your brother. Can you share that?
Yeah. So, I think that I've been working with a group and talking about like when we're in our zone of genius, which is from The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And I realized that I am in my zone of genius when I am actually coaching people who are, either living with or caring for a parent that has dementia, or whether it's a professional caregiver that is just having issues with behavior. So I think part of the reason I'm called to this is because I was raised with a brother with intellectual disabilities. So from the time I was, 5 years old, I was a caregiver for my brother, and not in the strictest sense, but I lived with someone who saw the world differently than a typical person would. And so then my passion became working with people with intellectual disabilities, and I worked in a capacity for several organizations here in Santa Barbara where I live in that way. But on the side, I had clients with dementia My very first client was back in 2008, and it was the mother of my good friend. And when I didn't know that much about, Alzheimer's dementia, the one thing that I knew about it was that most people with Alzheimer's can recall from long past, but they can't remember what they had for lunch. And so when I was with her, I would ask her about stories from her childhood, and she would tell them to me. And then I would relate this back to her daughter, and her daughter told me, I've never heard that story. I never knew my mom had a dog when she was a kid, and that the dog's name was this. And, so I feel like I felt like that was a really special, intimate relationship to have with a person who's experiencing not just memory loss, but, really like a cognitive decline. And I was really drawn to it. So during the last 12 years, I had several people that I helped with dementia. And then I had a full-time client for several years where, I learned all the tricks of the trade on the job in order to be able to care for her. And I saw a huge transformation in her being as I was with her. And it didn't take long either. I mean, we definitely had ups and downs. There's lots and lots of behavior that people deal with when they're dealing with a person with dementia, Alzheimer's type dementia. And so being able to maneuver through that many, many hours in the week and still enjoy her and see her enjoying her life just made me feel like I need to help other people. Eventually, she moved into a facility. And just a quick story about that is she was in this facility, and a lot of facilities just aren't equipped for people with dementia, and you would think they would be, but they're not. So I was leaving her home one evening, and this sweet little old woman was walking down the hallway with her walker. And I closed the door behind me, and I saw her, and she said, "What is all this stuff on the floor?" And there wasn't anything on the floor. So I just said, "Oh, what is all this stuff on the floor? We got to take care of this. We got to get rid of all this stuff so nobody trips." "Yes, I don't know why they keep all this stuff everywhere." So I kind of guided her along. And as I did that, one of the staff came by, and she said the same thing to the staff. And the staff looked at her with these huge eyes, like deer in the headlights, and just turned and walked the other way. And I just thought, I know that caregivers are so well-meaning, but they don't get that kind of training and support to know in the moment, like how to dance, with people that don't, they don't make sense all the time. So how do you do that? So that's what I try and help people do.
Yeah, that was beautiful. And I didn't stop you because you were on a roll there, and it was important to let you keep going.
Yeah.
You said a couple of things that I want to bring out that makes you different than, those hospital workers. And I do, listen, I have a lot of respect for anybody, any caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a calling. You don't go into that saying, "Oh, I want a career in this and make a lot of money," because you don't make a lot of money.
Right.
Okay. But that being said, and you said it, they have the best intentions. They're there, to help people, but they just don't have the training. Okay. Yeah. They didn't have the kind of calling that you had, I believe, which was a lot deeper. So you talked about the zone of genius, which I never heard of before, but I know what you're talking about. I want you to expound upon that.
Well, I guess for me, what it means for me is just being in that flow and, when am I in my zone of genius? And I had that experience when I was coaching a woman just a couple of weeks ago, somebody who took my class, and she was having some issues with her mother. And as she talked and as I coached her, I could just, it just became sort of like what just happened just now with me telling the story about, this person at the assisted living facility. And I know that when I have coached people and they do, they go along with the coaching, they have transformation in the behavior of the person that they're caring for. And there's nothing better for me than that, to feel like, all right, and of course, everybody is different. So there's a million different ways to handle things, but
it's almost like, I just called it being in the zone. It's like you lose track of time. Time doesn't exist. You're just so in the moment.
Yep.
And that is, to me, that's nirvana. I study a guy called Eckhart Tolle. He wrote a book called The Power of Now. Yep. And I try to be in the present as much. And, so like when I'm in a mastermind group or I'm doing this, I could do this all day. I could interview entrepreneurs. And that's important because, and like I said in the beginning, I want to take people like you that are in that zone and monetize it, turn it into a business, which, a lot of people might have an issue with that, saying, oh, Marisa wants to do good. She wants to help the world. And I meet people like that, and they have a problem with making money.
Right.
I said, that's great. You could change the world, go work for a not-for-profit. But I know business, and there is no, it's not against the law. It's not against God's law. In fact, I believe that God wants us to be rich.
Right.
He wants us to take our passion and make lots of money. Right. And I learned that from the science of getting rich. I was like, so why can't somebody take their passion like you and teach the whole world? Because you have something special. You talked about tricks of the trade. Now, I have had nurses, people in the health field, caregivers. I never heard somebody say tricks of the trade. I always heard like, oh, how do we treat them?
Right.
How do we treat these people?
Right.
So when I read and I didn't read the whole book. All I had to do was read the introduction. That story that you told about, I said, oh my God. And from what I can remember from it, what you taught me in that introduction is that people all of a sudden can't play cards and they don't understand why. Or they start forgetting things. And that's what is some of the signs of starting Alzheimer's, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm thinking, oh my God, if I would be nasty. And that's what happens, right?
Yep.
A lot of times they get nasty. But you came up with, if you do, like the thing with, look at all that stuff on the floor. I don't think they teach you that stuff in medical school. Right.
No, they're not being taught that in medical school, in certified nurse training, in nurse training. They don't get that kind of, not yet.
And so the couple of stories that you just described, where you want to know something? Those people, oh my God, I can't believe. I wish that it would go away, but it's not going to go away. People are going to get Alzheimer's. It's a fact of life.
Right. It's the downside of longevity.
So you could help those people.
Yeah.
But you're taking it like a whole nother step further, because the family, you're like, what about the families? How are they? First of all, mom's getting nasty. You don't know why. And just that introduction, I was like, oh my God, this is, I said, this is special. When you could start teaching people and you've experienced it, when you're like, I can't imagine. I would love to be in your shoes when you connect with one of those family members. But now, so you've made a course out of this. So can you tell me about that? Because that's where we could start monetizing this.
Sure. Yeah. So it's a 6-week program. I mean, and it is, there is a curriculum or there are course materials, but it's also really a hand walking with somebody who is caring for a family member, or for professional caregivers that really, want to stand out. That's what it's about. So we work together. It's a 6-week program, and there's lots of layers of support in there, along with being in a group of people that get you. A lot of caregivers and families have so much isolation because they can't just talk about this with, at their wine club or at their book club or whatever. They're struggling with some pretty serious stuff. So it gives people a community to connect with.
So it's almost like a mastermind, and you've been in my mastermind groups, and what happens a lot of times is, if somebody says something like, oh, I don't know why, but I feel lazy. And then all of a sudden everybody says, I feel like that too. I thought I was the only one.
Right.
And it's relieving. So that's got to be. So who are candidates for this course? Because you mentioned professional caregivers, family members. I mean, who would want to take this kind of course?
Well, I've taught it to both. And I don't differentiate in the groups. We have, I would say the majority have been family caregivers. So if you are a sibling, a child, a spouse of someone who's having some cognitive decline, you'd be perfect for the class. You get lots of information and how to deal with the specific behaviors that you are dealing with. I have an interview process, so I make sure that everybody's needs get met as far as what they're dealing with. And so it could be a professional caregiver. Again, like you said, professional caregivers don't make that much money. So it would really need to be someone that wants to stand out and really wants to take on this profession in a big way. And I have a certified course that I've been offering to agencies. So the agency, if a caregiver works for an agency that works with me, then I provide the caregivers training through that.
Okay, so you actually have a certificate program.
Yeah.
So now you're not like you're not a doctor, right?
Right, exactly.
Do you have a nursing license? I mean,
I have several certifications in dementia care. So I'm a certified dementia practitioner.
Okay.
And I'm a board accredited Alzheimer's educator.
Okay. So that's, I know that you have the experience, but sometimes you have to come in with the credentials too. So
absolutely.
Because I'm wondering, hold on, we have a couple of comments here, and I forgot, if anybody has a question for Marisa or wants to connect with her, you can do it here. If you're watching the replay and you want to connect with Marisa, if you comment on this, I will probably see it in my group. And if you're in my group, I will try to, get back to you. But Marisa will give you a way to connect with her. And I definitely recommend it, especially, I'm thinking, with those certifications, I'm thinking, where can I get Marisa in where she's going to make an impact? Would it be like nursing homes? I mean, what organizations? The families are one thing, but sometimes that's one at a time.
Right.
If you could go to like an organization and hit all the care, that would be you. So where would you, would you speak at a place?
I would definitely speak, and I will just say that that's been a challenge, like how to make my way in. And I've been in several networking groups, and in industry related networking groups as well, but there's still just a challenge there in, being sort of the newbie on the block and that kind of thing. So I would love to connect with anybody who is listening, who has connections in the home care agencies or assisted living, memory care facilities would all be a great connection.
Okay. So yeah, this is the business part, and this is where I think I might be able to help you. And just doing this is part of the marketing of your business.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, especially the good thing is you're in a niche, so you know exactly who you want to connect with.
Right.
So that's good, but it's not easy.
Right.
I could help you make it simple just by saying, listen, if you're out there right now and you have a connection to some kind of home care organization, connect with Marisa, because she can definitely help. And that is the start, Marisa.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just keep planting seeds. You just keep doing what you're doing. You have a monthly newsletter, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the support group. And the thing is, it takes time.
Right.
But I know, and I knew this from the beginning, I just have a sixth sense with this, that you have a viable business. That's number one. And you're going to help a lot of people. And you probably have already touched a lot of people and you don't know it. You don't
Mm-hmm.
realize it. And Haley Gray actually taught me that. She talks about the crickets. You're out there and you're talking and you think that, oh, this ain't working. Well, it might be working exactly the way it's going to work.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you just got to be patient. But I know, if you just stick with this and keep going and you get yourself out there, you'll start connecting with people. And then I have to warn you, be careful what you ask for.
Right.
Because then once the floodgates open, you're going to be like, I have no more time for myself.
Right.
So, just keep that in mind. But that's a good problem to have. That's a good problem to have. So, words of wisdom. What are some of the warning signs that you can share with us that people should be aware of? Like, listen, I forgot what I had for breakfast.
Right.
Okay. When you said, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What are the warnings?
Let's talk just really quickly about, so there's a difference between forgetting what you had for breakfast and looking at a plate of eggs and not knowing what they are. Okay. So that's the difference between just what we all have, right? And what dementia looks like. So, people say, oh, I never remember where I put my keys. Well, there's a difference between that and finding your keys in the refrigerator. So that's the difference, right? So, and then I guess a few little warning signs are isolating. If you have a parent and all of a sudden, you said the thing about playing cards, all of a sudden they don't want to play cards anymore. Well, that's really strange. And it's something to notice and to look at and to see if they're isolating from other things too, because if they are, it's possible that they've forgotten the rules or they can't quite keep up anymore. And so rather than be embarrassed and show up for a card game and not be able to play, they'll just stay home. So you have sort of an active person that all of a sudden just doesn't want to interact with people. That's probably an early sign.
Okay, so it's a change in their behavior.
Yep, right.
Okay.
So I think those are two of the main, the really early signs. And that doesn't mean, you need to go crazy with care or something like that, but it's time to start watching a little closer. And then I always say at that point, start to collect your team, because a lot of doctors are great and a lot of people don't really like their doctors. If you don't like your doctor now, you're going to like him or her less as dementia progresses. So do some interviews with doctors, get referrals from friends, that kind of thing in the early part of the times. And then for children, get those stories in. Talk to your parents about their past, about, I remember I asked my grandmother about her early childhood, and she told me, she's an Italian woman, and she said that when she first got married to my grandpa, they lived in Brazil. And nobody ever knew this. Nobody ever talked about this before. So my grandmother didn't have dementia. I'm just saying that had I not asked the question and tried to get some of that family history down, we wouldn't have known it. So,
and that must have made her feel great. My sister did that with she was doing a family tree, and she found out stuff that had like historical events that happened that like my family was right there. But I'm just thinking that, somebody, listen, I met a photographer that started doing photography, and she thought it was, doing the family history. I said, no, you're capturing these people's history. You're asking them questions. You must be spreading joy because now they get to talk about this stuff, right?
Absolutely.
And that's got to be helping their situation.
Absolutely. I think that's really, that's so true. It's good for everybody because, seniors in our culture are often invisible, so when to get that sort of one-on-one and help them to understand that their experience and their story is important and valuable, something you want to record, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful part of working with seniors. Yeah.
Yeah. And listen, and this is what I'm talking about, like just talking to you about this. It's, if you get anything out of this, go and talk to your mom, your grandmother, and just ask them what it was like, and then maybe you could put things in perspective and stop. Maybe if you're feeling sorry for yourself.
Right. That's true.
Listen, I was just talking to a college buddy. I said, things are tough with COVID, but he had family in Poland during World War I and World War II.
Wow.
Okay, that's, so.
Right.
Listen, I'm going to call my mom after this and start asking her some history.
Good job.
So, all right. Anyway, how do people connect with you?
Okay. So, if you want to get in touch with me right away, send me a message on my Facebook. Send me a Facebook message. My name's right there. That's probably the easiest and fastest way. I have a guide on my website. If you're, thinking that you might be seeing a few signs, you can download the guide there.
Where's the guide?
It's at the very top, Joe. You can see
okay.
the guide.
Yeah. And to your email. That's easy enough.
Yeah. So you just put your email in, and then that'll be sent to you. What else? Yeah, those are the best ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, so you're looking for to connect with basically organizations, right?
Yeah, that would be really wonderful to have sort of a referral to an organization is a great way to, for me to connect with them.
Right. And so, all right, great. So
Thank you, Joe.
I'm going to go through my Rolodex now and see who I can maybe connect you with. And thank you so much. This was excellent.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time and the information, and you're doing great.
Thank you. Thanks for all your help.
All right. So long, everybody. We will see you tomorrow. Thank you.